Welcome to General Admission, episode number 54. I forgot last week. I remembered this week. Episode number 54. Happy Easter. Happy Passover. Happy spring. How you doing, Brett?
Feeling a little numb? Did you break the habit on Easter?
No habits were broken. I got nothing.
I was waiting for it.
Man, I wanted something, but it just didn't come to me. I was fighting myself to think of one. There we go. Boom. I think that's what it was called. One of the new ones.
It's easier to run sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, I just needed a place for my head. Okay, now we're cooking. Yeah, that we got to get to that because that was a lot of music, a lot of live music.
That consumed like pretty much the entire weekend.
Yeah,
trying to get through all that. That's why I've only gone back to the hybrid theory version of that like once, if that.
Yeah, I think with this, like, so I made a playlist. I put it on Instagram. I know I sent it to you. And it was just of like maybe 10 songs that were new and like mostly finished, being that they had vocals. Because I feel like you can make another whole playlist of just like lo-fi beats. Because there was a lot of instrumentals, which were also like I really liked, but they weren't like really fleshed out songs. Is it fleshed out or flushed out? Flushed?
I feel like people use both.
Yeah. I use both, and I've been wondering a lot
There's like
lately.
flesh, like build something up, and flush is get it
Just
out.
get it. Yeah, I guess either could work.
Maybe
I'll just keep mumbling it and hope no one questions it.
that's the rule I'll give myself
Yeah,
for now on.
there you
Flush
go.
it out, flesh
Yeah.
it up.
I really been enjoying Meteora. Like, it's just great to have those songs. It is like, I mean, we've talked about this before, but like Chester's lyrics, it's so like eerie and sad and just telling of everything.
Like foreshadowing like the worst possible way.
Yeah, like fighting myself or fighting with myself. I forget exactly. It's one of those. Um,
Like fighting with myself, right?
but yeah, I mean, it's all just about like being in your head and like not feeling okay and fighting with
Lost.
yourself and losing. And it's like, well, that's like really telling lyrics for how his story ended. Like, it's heartbreaking. And then at the same time, the songs are so good, like it's still listenable and enjoyable, like despite that, which is magic.
Almost makes you like forget
No,
he's gone. Like not to like make that, not that that sounds bad, but
no, I know what you mean because it's
yeah.
like, I mean, he lives on through his songs for sure. I'm sad like this project or whatever you want to call it, like made me sad that we didn't get a world with a solo Chester career.
Yeah, Stone Temple Pilots Chester career.
True. I actually wanted to ask you that because I know there's stuff he's in where he's like primarily the singer.
Not sure if they put it out an album with him or if it was just like
Just
the
a couple
live
songs.
shows.
Yeah. Because like you think of all the side projects and different like super groups, whatever you want to call them, that people have, like he could have easily been in another band in addition to Linkin Park where he was just like full blown singer.
Singer.
Because I had a friend that my friend, shout out Palazzi, but he loves to fire off hot takes. Like he has no middle ground for opinions, which is a blessing and a curse.
Should
But
get him on the show.
yeah, oh my God, it would be fun. It would be something. But
Just call it Hot Takes, a Hot Takes episode.
he said, and I'm quoting this, he said, sometimes I wish Linkin Park didn't have the rapper guy.
That is a very spicy take.
Very spicy take. And I said, you literally have the same name as this guy. You know his name. And he said, I do not remember the name. Which I mean,
Well
he might.
played.
Part of me thinks he had this whole take just so he could set up that joke. But either way, he nailed it.
It adds up.
Which, like, I see where he's coming from. I think Linkin Park, like, is not Linkin Park without Mike Shinoda and Chester.
No,
But it did put me on that path of like, man, it would be cool to just have like a Chester project.
because we have a bunch of Mike projects,
A lot of Mike projects.
like Fort Minor.
Yeah. I mean, he had a couple like solo raps in this. Standing in the Middle and Sold My Soul to Yo Mama.
With the paper
Probably.
cut lyrics on it.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of like crossover stuff that was like reused. You could tell like because they're demos, so it's like we have these lyrics, we don't necessarily know where they're going.
I feel like Standing in the Middle is like a throwaway Reanimation song, but they were like, this doesn't really fit here.
Is that the one that was featuring other people? Yeah. Yeah, it was. Unless like he just like had a
Huda.
weird voice. To me, it sounded like there were multiple people on that. Because there was
Weird
definitely
voice, like the.
there was a chorus where he says like someone like sing it or whatever. Like there's definitely multiple people on this.
So it might literally be from Reanimation then.
Definitely maybe. Now I'm second guessing it. I don't know. I'm actually not sure. It sounds like it though. So unless he's just doing a voice thing, I'm pretty sure he's going back and forth with people. But those definitely weren't like the highlights. They were cool, but the highlights was everything between like Lost and
Pretty much disc 6 of
yeah.
the 6 CDs, if you will.
Yeah. When you put this on, did you just go to the beginning or did you look for the new stuff?
I went to the original first just to get
Yeah.
refreshed. And then they did, of course, what we joked about, that they were going to put Live in Texas on here. And of course, it's like the second disc.
I mean, the live ones are cool. Like some of the live in Nottingham was cool because the crowd was chanting Linkin Park with like the English accent.
They should just put that one on and not Live in Texas. Because,
Is
like, it's the same set list pretty much.
yeah, it is a little weird, but I
Like, back to
guess
back of the same show. Well, not the same show, but the same songs.
yeah. I appreciate how they're going about this though, because like Mike said in like a few interviews, he's like, I don't want this to feel like we're milking this. He's like, we just have a lot of it, and I see your face right now. But if he was milk,
I
I
just
mean,
think
all
they,
right, you go. What do you think?
they could have just made this 5 disc, just cut off what's already out there. Like, you can go buy Reanimation, you can go buy Live in Texas, you can stream both of them too. Like,
Wait,
just keep all the unreleased stuff together.
was reanimation on this also?
They put it on the Hybrid Theory re-release
Oh yeah, okay. All right,
for no reason.
I get that aspect, but I was kind of approaching it from like they did put out one single, which is fine. That's what you're gonna do, and I think that was like the best song. Like I don't know. I guess you make an argument for a few, but I really like that song. But they put out the single and then they released everything. And of course they're gonna make money and they should make money. And like they put it as in this new cool package and there's all these discs and different things. If they wanted to really milk it, they would have put out each live album as a thing. They would have teased these tracks. Like I thought they did it as like honorably as you could.
As far as singles go, I agree. Like,
Yeah. Like
compared
they
to what
could have
some
stretched
bands do.
they didn't stretch it out, is my point though. Like they just gave it to you.
Yeah. Well, it was only 2 singles, right? Was it 3?
Uh I think it
Let's
was
check.
Lost and Fighting with Myself. What the hell is the name of that song? It's driving me crazy. Just Fighting
I think
Myself.
you're. It's Fighting
There's
Myself.
no with. No with. Cut all the withs. Go back, edit out every time I said with. Not gonna do that.
You're right. It was only 2 singles.
Yeah, which is fine. Did you listen to A6, the demo one? So there was two. One has Mike Shinoda on it. One is just instrumental. That song, like, I'm like putting out like calling all TikTok musicians. Someone needs to like add in singing and screaming to that song.
Yes.
Like, there's plenty of people that can do it great. I mean, I'm not asking you to be Chester, but like, there's a breakdown around like 2 minutes or so.
I
And
bet my notes too.
I was literally just sitting in my basement screaming like to myself, like whisper screaming, like I wasn't gonna scare Nicole, but I'm down here like, like it just needs it so bad. Like, oh man, that song is so close to being awesome, and it's just missing. It's missing Chester.
So I had like a couple questions for that one. Like, do we think like Chester just like got this and like couldn't come up with anything? She's like, I got nothing on this, and so like this is all we have, or like was there screaming and then they just cut it out and left like a space there like in tribute for him on this?
Huh.
Like I tried to do some little digging to see if like maybe there's some
Yeah.
background on this, but I couldn't find anything.
I mean, I would think if they had vocals of him for it, they would have put them there, but it's certainly possible. Like, there's really no way to know for sure.
Because that there's a build to that breakdown
I
and
know.
it's like the perfect place and
I
then just
know.
nothing was there.
It needs it. I want it so bad. Like, yeah, it could just be that it was one they had and it wasn't one that they saw all the way through and it kind of just like faded out.
It hit the floor.
Yeah. God damn it, Brett. Yeah, I don't know. It was a really cool song though, and but just like I hope people take it and like add screams.
Yeah, the
I think
instrumentals
that
were
would be
like
cool.
phenomenal on that.
Yeah, great breakdown. Was it Massive? That was just Chester? I think it was. Yeah, I'm
Ancient
looking at it now. Like
tables.
I heard the screaming in my dream. That was like a great melody in that one. Not that I'm doing it justice, but yeah, that was all Chester.
Or is it More the Victim? Because Chester was really good on More the Victim.
Hmm. Uh,
So I'm trying to.
yeah, sorry, we're having a lot of dead air here because we're clicking through. I think I think that was all Chester. So maybe both of them? I thought I wrote it down, but I'm not sure. They were definitely both primarily Chester. Do you think like if Linkin Park just stayed like this through their career, like it would have been fine? Or would it have been like these guys are still doing new metal in like 2015?
I don't know because I feel like anyone you talk to like loves like Hybrid Theory and Meteora. Like it's hard to find someone that likes our kind of music that doesn't. I don't think I've ever met anyone that actually didn't like Hybrid Theory.
No.
So I feel like if they scratch that itch like for like 20 years, like the don't get offended, but like the Rise Against model,
Yeah, yeah. A cure for
no,
the
like
itch?
Cure for the Itch, well played.
Thank you.
But yeah, I don't think people would have got sick of it because
No,
it scratches nostalgia and people just love that album.
yeah, and they were really good at it. Like I think I would have been okay with it, but it's really hard to know in hindsight and like especially with everything that went down. Like, because I don't know, some like Mike Shinoda has a song out right now, I think. I heard on Octane, and it's just like I don't know if like
Doesn't hit
him
the same.
rapping like lands the same without like everything else.
They're toying with possibly making new music though. I saw the bass player said he'd love to. He doesn't think they're done yet.
They might as well. Like, I don't think it would be disrespectful. And it's not like I mean, I'm not familiar enough with their later albums to even really speak on it. Like, obviously you're gonna miss Chester, but they're a big band with like a lot of talent. There's no reason to call it quits if they don't want to. I don't think anyone would be offended by that.
Just hard to fill those shoes though.
Yeah, they'd have to I don't know. I don't know what they'd have to do go in like a weird direction, I think. But they already have been going in weird directions. So,
Wasn't it like the tribute show they did? Like they put that on Spotify too, where they had like a different singer from they had like a
oh
bunch of different
yeah.
guests come out and do the songs with them.
I didn't know that that was on Spotify, but I remember watching it on like YouTube or whatever.
Yeah, One More Light live,
Oh, that's great. I didn't know this was here. Wow.
where the guest's not even on here.
No, it's not listed, but I'm sure they're on there. I don't even like remember specifics from that. I remember watching it. We've lost so many artists. It's like
Yeah,
the tribute shows start to get blurry.
which is sad.
Yeah, it is very sad. It's how it goes. Do you remember? I said this on Facebook, like Hybrid Theory or like Linkin Park. is a band that you remember where you were the first time you heard them.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Where were you?
I was at summer camp first time I heard
Nice. Someone with like a Walkman or
like yeah, someone with a CD player and a
yeah.
boombox. Paper
That's
Cut came out, and I'm like, I've never heard anything like this before.
yeah.
And he's like, oh, that's not even the big single. And he puts in the end on, and like everyone like gathers around.
That's amazing. Yeah, that one of the live albums within the end, like just hearing the crowd sing, like of course that song has been like played so much, but it's still like if you really just like put that aside and just listen to it and like remember hearing it for the first time, like that was like maybe one of the like the biggest songs like ever in our lifetime.
An anthem that came out around the same time as the anthem,
The wait, which anthem were we talking about?
the Good Charlotte
Good
one.
Charlotte one. Okay. There's a lot of anthems.
There were too many anthems.
We could do a whole draft on anthems.
Probably could get
A-
Parko next time. Just trick him.
Anthem 1, 2, Good Charlotte, the anthem. Less Than Jake has a whole album called Anthem. That might be it.
Anthem of Our Dying Day.
Nice. Oh, we got to talk about them too.
All right, before we get into some story of the year talk, just some three final thoughts on 20th anniversary of Meteora. So number one, I think my favorite song off this collection was Healing Foot. Just thought it was vintage Linkin Park, only like a little bit lighter than you might think. Kind of like what you got with Breaking the Habit here, which was actually a single I couldn't stand. Like back in like this is the only song I didn't like on Meteora. But I think like as I gotten older and like hear it, I was like re-listening to it this week. It's actually a really great song, and like I don't know why I was hating on it back in the day. I don't know if you felt
Yeah.
the same way about that one
It
too.
was definitely one of the few Linkin Park songs that had to like grow just a little bit. I didn't like actively dislike it, but the first time I heard it, it's like, oh, this is definitely different for them. But I thought it was cool. It had a really cool music video. It's like for
It
maybe
was
the first time I
anime,
ever
right?
saw anime in my life. Yeah. Yeah. Did you hear before you get to your other two thoughts, the breaking the habit on this with Mike singing?
I did, and then that's why I texted you. I'm like, I'm glad Chester sang on it.
100%. But I think it's so cool, like a peek behind the curtain. Like I'm assuming this is how it went down. That like Mike came up with like most of that song and the vocal melody and was like, here's how I want to do it. I'm just gonna sing it like my way, and then like I'll let Chester like do his thing. But like here's how I
That
want it
makes a
to
lot more
go.
sense.
And like that is so cool if it's true, which I mean, I think it's true. Like the only alternative would be like they had the song and Mike's just like, I want to give a go at this in like a shitty falsetto. Like I doubt that was the case.
He's a better
Which
singer than that.
yeah, no, that's what the cool thing about demos is. It's like the beginning of that A Day to Remember song when you hear whoever's on guitar just going like da, 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 da. He's just mumbling the
Oh
words. Or
yeah,
like how the Beatles used to sing like ham and eggs for all their lyrics or whatever it was. Like they have the idea, they know the melody, and they just want to get it down on paper, and then they're like, we can clean it up and make it real later. So I thought it was real cool they included that because they did not have to. And I'm sure like I mean Mike's got to be confident enough in his life and career where that's he's not like embarrassed at all.
yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was a really cool peek behind the curtain if that's exactly like how it went down.
No, I agree with that. I feel like a lot of these demos were kind of like that. Like it's cool to see it, those songs at the ground floor, and then like kind of knowing where they would ultimately wind up. It's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. What what else did you have for it? You said
And then so
three thoughts.
so number two, so
Number
like
two.
the last song, Resolution, I thought like this kind of showed where they were heading, like with was it Minutes to Midnight?
Yeah.
I always say the name of that album wrong. It is, right? Okay.
Yep.
But it's like similar piano, like What I've Done. So it's kind of like
Oh,
playing with that idea
that's a
on the next album.
great connection. I didn't put that together, but that's nailed it.
So I in my head now, I'm like, they're gonna definitely do a 20th anniversary of Minutes to Midnight with more demos.
I think so. I think it'll stop at minutes to midnight
I think so too.
if I had to guess. Because to me, like, I mean, people have their opinions on minutes to midnight, but I still think as far as like OG Linkin Park, I think that still fits the bill. I love that album. And
I do
it
too.
was it was maybe a slight deviation from like Meteora, but I mean, like Bleed It Out is still like that's one of like the best screams Chester has. So
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Was
I
it
guess
Give
you
It
could,
Up was on there too, right?
yeah, yeah. I think that was the opener.
Yep.
But then you have ones like Shadow of the Day, Valentine's Day, like
Leave out all the rest.
yeah, which those are great songs too. Like I think they had a real like natural progression. We really should go back to their less played albums. Like it's the one with like the sun, right? Was that the one after Minutes to Midnight?
That one was extremely divisive. A Thousand
Yeah,
Suns.
I definitely didn't like it, but I'd like to go back to it and see. Because like there's one, two, three. Hunting Party, I think I kind of listened to a little bit.
That was
There's
like a
like
return to form for them. That's like where they
there's
tried to make like Meteora again.
all right. Yeah, that's probably why I remember that one a little better. But like there's 4 or 5 Linkin Park albums that like I am not really familiar with at all. And I'm out
I
here like saying I miss Chester, and it's like you have 5 albums of him that you could just go listen to.
yeah.
And it might not be like early 2000s Linkin Park, but like so what? Like that's a whole catalog to go through. So I think that would be a fun little project just to see.
I'd be down for that. Because I couldn't tell you a single thing about Living Things or a song on
No,
this at
I think
all.
they were just really I think Living Things was really long, if I remember. That's all I got in my head for that one, is that it was a long album. And I don't even know if I'm
37
right.
minutes.
See? Could it be more wrong? What was it, 1,000 Suns? No, 40 minutes.
A
I guess
Thousand
they just
Suns was pretty long.
that's just
No.
that's nope, 40 minutes. See, couldn't be more wrong. That's just how like they felt to me though. It just felt like they were doing like these long drawn out. I mean, this Recharged album is an hour 8. I'd like to say that's what I'm thinking of, but
I don't even know what this is.
it's it's not. This looks like
It's all
another
remixes.
reanimation type album, which kind of makes sense with the name.
Did not even know this existed.
Yeah, hand up. I don't know shit about Linkin Park after Minutes to Midnight. Call myself a fan. God damn it. Really long album. 37 minutes is really long.
We gotta find a Linkin Park fan that can like roadmap the whole band, but then also navigate us through their later years. I
I
almost said
feel like
Gator years.
the Gator years. I feel like it'd have to be like someone from Brazil. Whenever I see Linkin Park stuff, it's always like Brazilian. Like them and Avenged Sevenfold, I think have like huge followings in like South America. I don't
Very
know why.
random, but
Yeah, very random. We got to find someone who has like great English could come on and break it all down. If we have any Brazilians listening, come on the
please
show.
come on.
Tell us about Linkin Park. I'm telling
Oh, and
you,
then
look at their social posts next time they post. Crazy. They are worldwide. Worldwide.
and,
Prestige. Okay, sorry, I
and
kind of went on a
that's okay.
tangent there.
Final question. So I posted this to our Facebook today, which I've been trying to do more of. But is Hybrid Theory still the superior album, or could people argue that this was a peak Linkin Park album over that one? Because I tried to make the argument in a comment for Meteora of like how I would pitch it if I was going against Hybrid Theory, but I still think Hybrid Theory is the winner. But I'm curious what you think.
I mean, they're so like the same to me. Like to me, they're like one body of work. It's really hard for me to like separate them and pick one. Hybrid Theory, of course, has like the like
The
benefit of
bangers.
being first, but like if I could only listen to one for the rest of my life, I would take Meteora. Like that that's just how I feel. That's just how I feel about it.
So I answered appropriately from our account then, because I said my argument would be like this is them showing they weren't just like another new metal band. Like there's a lot more to them, and they got to
Yeah,
show a different side here while still keeping all their fans.
I think that's exactly why I would go with that because it has songs like Easier to Run, Breaking the Habit,
Numb.
Numb, like that song, like certain songs, like you hear growing up and like through certain like moments of your life. Like that song will give me goosebumps every time it comes on forever.
Is that beginning?
It just, yeah, those notes. There was a night like I won't like drag this one out, but we had like ski trip at school, and this was like, you know, before high school, and the mountain would play music like in the terrain park and stuff. And that song was on and I like broke my wrist. And on the bus ride home, I was listening to my CD player, whatever it was then. It might have been MP3 player days. But I was listening to Numb. Then like I wound up having to go to the emergency room and that was like on at the hospital. It's like that
And
song
you were
just like
literally numb.
for real. That was literally Numb. Like that song just like followed me that whole night. And I mean, it was a hugely popular song. It's not surprising it was just on everywhere, but it's just one of those ones that really transports me back to like not only my childhood, but like a specific part of it, specific night, specific memory. Like there's a lot of emotion tied to that song. I love that song. It's so good.
The whole album is just it's like they made like two like near flawless albums back to back.
Yeah. Especially like the way it intros with like forward, like
Kicks the door down.
the glass breaks or whatever. Oh
They
man,
do it live too.
so good. It's such a good band. Yeah. Yeah, I'll never forgive my I don't remember if I've told this on air before, but we saw them at Bamboozle in 2007 maybe. And it was like after a hiatus. Like I don't remember exactly what happened, if they broke up or just took a break or what. I think it was before Minutes to Midnight,
There's a
after
big gap in
Meteora.
between. There's like a
Yeah,
4 year
like
gap.
it wasn't sure like what they were gonna do. Because that might have been when Fort Minor started too. So it was like, are they I don't know if that's for sure or not, but they headlined Bamboozle and I was like, I don't know, 13, something like that, 2007, 16, 15. And we it's a festival, so like we were able to just get there and like have a great spot. We were maybe like 10, 15 rows from the stage. It's the first times I've ever been handed a joint in my life. And like Linkin Park came out and it was like didn't even feel real. And then my friend's parents got there and called us and they made us leave because they wanted to beat traffic. So we had to, I mean, we were there for more than half the set. So like I'll always have that. But I remember walking out with my back to the stage as they're playing In the End. And I am not ashamed to say I cried the whole car ride home. I was
I would have
so
too.
fucking mad. And then my friend, like, he's like, "Oh, you're so like selfish and this and that. Like, my parents did us a favor by driving us, and you're complaining." I'm like, dude, the whole weekend built up to this, and like, like and I will stand by it. I don't care. That was a shitty move. Sit in
You
some
can't leave with the
traffic.
headliner.
No, I should have just stayed and like figured it out, but I was a rule follower. So I did what I was told and then complained about it later. Oh man, so disappointing. But it was insane to see them. It's still like even the memory doesn't feel real. Like it was sick. They were so good.
I never got to see them.
Uh yeah, they were because they had what was it? Project Revolution was their thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have just went to one of those.
Yeah. I know Nicole did like before we met, and it was like Atreyu was there and like
Like Corn was there a couple
yeah.
times. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
they have the
pretty
One
cool.
Step Closer with Jonathan Davis.
Oh, I didn't know
It's
that.
pretty cool.
Apparently a bunch of bands have been like covering crawling. I know like I think Silverstein opened their show with it. Did you tell me this or did someone
They
else?
played One Step Closer.
Oh, that's it. And then was another band did I think maybe like I don't remember. I don't want to just say a wrong band for the sake of saying a wrong band, but other people have been like covering Linkin Park at their live shows, which is pretty cool. Uh,
But they might be back. And then
I'm sure that'll
do
be
we
another
go?
unattainable concert. I mean, we could certainly try.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll talk to Brian later this episode, and he made it sound like getting tickets for Metallica was easy. I think I just have to stop being picky with seats, and it might be better. Because like my buddy Mike, like he got 6 tickets to Queen, like no, kind of no problem. He's in the 200s, and like it's fine. So like maybe I just need to not I need to just like be happy to be in the building and stop wanting like premier seats. I don't know. Because I thought I tried to get Queen tickets and couldn't, but maybe it was just a pre-sale and regular sale was easier. I couldn't go anyway. I just wanted to try and pretend to get them just for science.
So I guess Mike is the champion.
He is the champion. He's gonna ride his bicycle to the show. God damn it, Brett. You make me have to try and come up with these puns
On the spot.
on the spot. Uh did you listen to Silverstein? A little bit?
A
Once?
little bit.
Twice?
So like once, and then I dove right back into Meteora because there was just so much more than what Silverstein gave us with like pretty much 3 new songs.
Yeah, I didn't have too much to say about it. Poison Pill kind of just felt like a song that was good but not good enough to make the album. Like it was just like a normal B-side. And then I like what was the other one? Stitches.
Stitches, yeah.
That one I liked. I mean, I didn't like love it, but I liked that it was different. Like that song wouldn't have fit on the album. It was way too poppy. Like it almost sounded like Skater Boy at the beginning. Like it had that same like upbeat riff. And like they do great when they just want to try and like go a little poppier. Like they can really do everything, which is why they're such a good band. But to me, like that's a good B-side to include because it's one that is a good song, but it wouldn't have fit the vibe of the album, and that's why it got left off. Whereas Poison Pill just kind of felt like one that did fit the vibe of the album, but it just didn't make the cut.
We couldn't find a place for it.
No. Merry Orchestra, it's kind of hoping for more out of that one.
It was
A
too
little
short, I
overwhelming.
thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
The live tracks were my favorite though, because I'm always in the mood for a live Silverstein song.
Yeah. And the energy. The live tracks just made me upset that we didn't just drive the hour to Stroudsburg and see them.
We missed like their last 2 tours.
I know. We've been bad fans. What I did notice, I don't know if you noticed this or if you just remembered this information. Nothing Nowhere was on the original album.
I didn't realize that till I pulled this up on Friday.
Because when their album came out, and it was cool to see Silverstein on it, and I'm like, oh, I don't know anything about these guys. It's like, no, you do. Like they were on a Silverstein album. You talked about them, like, or him, excuse me. Got to get that right.
What happens when we listen to so much music like every week?
Yeah, it is. It is weird. Have you been going back to like this week? We didn't have too much. Like we just really had like Linkin Park. So were you listening to like anything else?
It was hard to with because like essentially it was just Linkin Park and Silverstein, but just Linkin Park was 6 albums in one.
Do
It's
you
a little
listen to
challenging.
do you listen to all of it? I didn't. I just listened to the new ones and like
I
shuffled
didn't.
some live songs.
I still have to listen to. I think it's like the Project Revolution or the LPU live
Yeah.
performances. I haven't listened to those yet, but
This like I think this is one that like needs a playlist.
yeah, that's why I'm glad you made what you made. It helped make it a little easier for me because I was like, I'm
Yeah,
just gonna
just
try to digest this whole thing, and I'm like, maybe I shouldn't do that.
yeah, just to have those songs in one place was just a little easier because like ultimately I think that's what like people want. Like demos are cool because you get to see, how the sausage is made, but the new songs is like that's what the people want.
That's the cherry on top.
Yeah. Um one last thing and then we'll get to our interview with Brian. Um Story of the Year put out a single. Um I don't know the name, but I know the album art was a lot like In the Wake of Determination.
Are they just running back their old album art because like they want to?
That's here's where I am right now because I'm very conflicted because it could go two ways. On one hand, I mean the song is great. Like it's like kind of acoustic, like it's a lighter, like it's not like heavy or anything like that. But my my point is, sorry, bring it back. It's really on one hand, it's really fun to see them like paying like tribute to their previous albums. Then on the other hand, it's like, why are you doing this?
They know
And
what
I
they're doing.
and it's just really if I want to choose to be a hater or not. And I don't want to be a hater because I like the songs and ultimately that's what matters. But it gives off a little bit of the vibe where it's like we had a really successful career for a decade or so. Then we kind of fizzled out. So now let's just run back that decade. And that's kind of what it feels like they're going for, which is just like I feel like I don't know, if it works, it works. And like I said, the songs are good. But I don't know, just like be a band. Like if this song they were just like we have a new song, here it is. That'd be cool. Like why are you teasing art from an old album? I don't know. It's just I don't get it.
Like from like the top of my head, at least, I can't think of too many bands that have done this before. Like with their last album, it was pretty much the Page Avenue
Yeah.
album art, and now they're doing it again with a single. And I can't really think of too many bands that run back old album art concepts.
Yeah. In which case it's fun and it's interesting and it's cool. And
For an
we
anniversary,
could be
not for
happy
like a
about it.
brand new album though.
Yeah, this is all just new music. But does that mean like this, whatever they're working on next, is now going to be slightly heavier than what they just did in the same vein that Wake of Determination was slightly heavier than Page Avenue? Because I mean,
Maybe. Could be.
I'm for that. Like I'm definitely for that. Like we've talked about it plenty of times where that's like our favorite album by them. So I don't know. As long as the songs are good, that's what
That's all
matters.
that
It just
matters.
seems like a little bit of a I just would love to hear like their reasoning behind it. Maybe it's just cashola.
It might be.
It might be. All right, let's get to our interview with Brian. We have a great interview with our friend Brian Colburn, of My Weekly Mixtape.
One of
We've
our
had him.
favorite guests.
Yeah, he's a great hang. We get into everything, shows to Phish, to Blues Traveler, to podcasting. Just we're all over the place. It's a great chat. Think you guys are gonna enjoy it. So yeah, Brian Colburn, let's talk to him. All right, we now welcome back on reoccurring guest, friend of the pod, Brian Colburn. You may remember him from his first podcast, Playlist Wars. Well, Brian is back behind the mic with a new show called My Weekly Mixtape, where he's still using the playlist idea, but honoring the maybe lost art of crafting mixtapes. I don't know. We'll get into it. But Brian, thank you so much for coming on and finding time. Congrats on the new show.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you both so much for having me on. I'm excited to talk some tunes with you guys again.
Oh yeah. So how's it been going? You're like a few months in now to the
Yeah,
new, yeah.
the show took off a lot faster than I ever expected. I expected it to be kind of building from the ground up again. And thankfully, a lot of the people that followed Playlist Wars took the journey with me over to My Weekly Mixtape and have kind of embraced the new format. So, whereas Playlist Wars was very much a who do you like the best, as in there's three different playlists, and it's kind of a discussion as to who has the best playlist. My Weekly Mixtape is a little bit more collaborative versus competitive. And at the end of the day, when Playlist Wars went on hiatus and I decided I wanted to do a new show, I wanted to kind of strip the competition aspect out of the format, because as much as I love Playlist Wars and everything that we've done, and when we go back to it, I will continue to love it, I wanted this show to be a completely different vibe from Playlist Wars. And Playlist Wars, you're bringing your songs to the table and pleading your case for them. And when I was growing up, when I was making mixtapes with my friends, it was more of a song by song basis, because when my buddies and I would go out, or if let's say when I was much younger, 10, 11 years old, and my parents would take us out for the day, we would have our one Walkman that we would use the Y splitter and each have a set of headphones in. So we would record a tape together of all different songs that we liked, but we always did the every other song. So that way, if there was a song that maybe I wasn't as big of a fan of, at least I know the next song was my pick. And I kind of wanted to bring that thought process into a podcast, because when I was growing up, making a mixtape was, like you said at the top, it was an art form, because you're taking a bunch of different people's voices and making it your own by taking songs by different artists and building it together. Whereas now, the younger generation takes songs, throws 100 of them into a playlist, and just hits shuffle. So it's more of a random radio station feel, which is totally fine. But for me, it was always about what song should come next and why. What's the thought process behind, other than I like this song, I like this song, I like this song, I like this song. Sometimes if you were making a mixtape for somebody you were interested in, but you didn't want to make it too obvious. So you kind of had to slip subtle messages in through the music and through the story you were telling. And I think that is a lost art. And I'm trying to bring that back, where people listen to the show, listen to the songs that were created, and maybe start creating playlists with the thought of, here's a story that I'm telling through these songs, not just here's 50 songs I like, let me listen to them randomly.
Yeah,
I miss those days.
yeah, me too. It sounds like I'm sitting here thinking like, huh, I should do that, because like you do get to kind of craft your own little album of different artists, and it's kind of like the digital camera effect, where now like you can just take 500 pictures and it's cool and all fun. But back in the day when you had like a Kodak, you had 18 pictures maybe, and you had to make each one count, and it's a very like kind of similar vibe.
A
And
great
sure as
comparison.
hell, with that Kodak camera, there was always one picture with the finger kind of like right. And it was the best shot of the night too. Everybody's eyes were open, no red eye, but there was that finger.
Yep. Yeah, you got to try and keep the finger off the mixtapes.
And
The
that's
finger
it-
song.
Yeah, to me, the finger was always when you'd be recording a song towards the end of the side, and right as it got to the best part, the side ended, and you're like, oh, I ran out of space.
Ah,
You
yes.
get that pop that you never want to hear.
Yes.
we had CDs. I used to burn CDs, and I had a thing that you can like create your own label, and then you'd print it on a sticker and you'd smack that on. I used to rip apart cases and then try and like make my own. My mom wouldn't let me buy Eminem CDs, so I completely bootlegged the Marshall Mathers LP like myself. I looked up what it looked like and just remade it.
Nick is incriminating himself on the episode.
Right?
Oh,
tonight.
I
I think
later
it's out of
bought
the
it.
statute
No.
limitations, right? We're outside that time length now.
I'm gonna get dragged off screen.
Well, the beauty, look, I loved making mix CDs, and I still do, because at the end of the day, and I know I promise not to go on too long of a tangent. I love Bluetooth. So when a new album comes out, I love popping it on a streaming service and listening to it in my car. But when I'm listening to music for, let's say we have a 7-hour drive with the family, I still burn CDs. The audio quality from lossless music that's not going over a Bluetooth connection sounds better in the car stereo than Bluetooth sounds great. It's come a long way, because when I first had an iPod in the car, we had to use the radio transmitter, which sounded worse than FM, and it was always staticky.
Or the cassette
And then it was
wire.
always,
yeah.
you'd get stations coming in and out. So Bluetooth is amazing. However, listening to a CD, I still burn them. And it's funny because nowadays on Facebook, there's always people giving away spools of 100 CDs. Like, I've got these collecting dust. Who'll take this garbage? And I'm like, I'll use them, and I will, because I'll burn a CD each month of just new songs that I like, just to kind of keep in the car and kind of decide where those songs sit with me. New albums, if they only are available digitally, I burn them to a CD and put them in the car. I guess it's just I'm showing my age here, but when you were doing 70 miles an hour, I think when I was growing up, people doing this on their phone was my generation looking to the passenger seat, flipping the CD book, trying to decide what album you wanted to put on next.
Yeah, what's more dangerous? Probably both.
Yeah, I think they're equally as dangerous.
It's kind of funny because we like also we're just saying grew up like making mixed CDs and stuff. And then as I got older, I became very like all about the album. And now it's kind of like if I don't love an entire album, I don't always go back to it. When if I was making custom playlists or CDs, there's probably a few songs on there that I would keep. So now I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot in the opposite direction. I'm
It's
gonna
a
start making
very
more playlists. You've
yeah,
convinced me
it's
2 minutes
an
into this.
interesting concept because there are some songs that for me in an album listen, I can't hear that album without that song. But on shuffle mode, when that song comes on, I'm like, oh no, 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 we're skipping that. But because when it comes up randomly, it just doesn't hit the same way as that album flow.
Brian, have you like also noticed like I feel like because you still listen to CDs, like you would notice this, but like the quality on a lot of the streaming services like isn't there yet somehow. Like I don't get how they haven't mirrored CD quality audio yet. Like I was complaining about Nick this a couple weeks ago about like the Spotify quality and how I'm not sure when
Spotify,
it's gonna be
I,
upgraded.
I think Spotify's 256 right now. Amazon Unlimited does do CD quality. Qbuz, if I'm saying that right, it's the one that's QOBUZ. I think it's
Oh,
Qbuz or Qbuzz or whatever. They're
that
a
one's new to me.
lossless streaming service, which I love. Anytime I go to buy digital music, if a band puts out an album that's a digital only release, I go there and buy the tracks individually or buy the album digitally because it's in a lossless format as opposed to buying the songs as an MP3, which are compressed. We're already dealing with the loudness wars where there's already a disadvantage with when you open up a song in a WAV file and it's one brick going across the stream, you know the music's been stripped of all dynamics. It's loud. The quietest part of the song where somebody's whispering is as loud as when the whole band is playing at full volume and the singer's screaming at the top of their lungs. I kind of miss the dynamics in music where if it gets really quiet, you do have to turn the volume up a little bit because that's showing the realness of the song. Whereas if I'm whispering in a song, I don't want it to be as loud as my scream, if that makes sense. So you're already dealing with the loudness war, but then you compress that even more. Certain songs are unlistenable, not from a music standpoint, but from audible standpoint. So Metallica's Death Magnetic. I love that album. I am a massive fan of Death
I'm there with
Magnetic. I
you.
know a lot of people are like, oh, that I love it, love it, love it. The original mix, I can't listen to. There was at one point some people that were much more passionate Metallica fans than I am took all the individual tracks from Guitar Hero 3 and remixed the album without brickwalling things. And there is available if you search places. I won't say where, I won't say how, but if you look for the Death Magnetic Guitar Hero 3 mix and you A/B it versus the original, the Guitar Hero mix is very, very dynamic and the songs hit harder because you're not dealing with that cymbal that's because of all the compression. It's more tucked in the mix and it sounds like more of a full band. So I highly suggest if you're a Metallica fan, you look that up after you purchase the album, of course. I have my Death Magnetic CD that I don't listen to because I have the Guitar Hero 3 version. So I'm incriminating. Brett, you're the only one that's left. Incriminate yourself with something musically.
I'm sure we will before the podcast is over. I just have to get there. I'm making a natural dive in there.
Brian, where are you getting your CDs these days? I saw you picked up So Much for Stardust the other day.
That one, I will be perfectly honest. It just so happened to be I was out with the family running errands at Target and they had
Nice.
a copy of So Much for Stardust. I'm like, you know what? I want to give this one a listen. The last one, I think it was Mania was the last album. Was
No,
it
no,
not?
it was.
Was
I'm
it-
just shaking my head at
Oh,
it.
it was
yeah.
Mania. That one, it was the first Fall Out Boy album since 2004 that I didn't buy. I just had no desire. But I'm like, you know what? I heard one or two singles and it felt, excuse me, it felt like they were going back to rock. And I feel what they did on this album was what Papa Roach did last year on Ego Trip. They embraced their past, understood that they found a new audience with their pop side, and merged them together. And I feel like it really works. They kind of found a way to please both sides of the spectrum, because Mania is not an album that purists for Fall Out Boy from the early days, from Under the Cork Tree, that to them is it's a complete 180.
Yeah, I don't even
But
recognize
the
that.
new album offers something where both sides can be like, I'm finding something in this album that I like. And I'll be honest, right now, So Much for Stardust is rocketing to the top of my favorite albums so far for 2023. It's
Yeah,
really well done.
I've been going back to it a ton, and I was never
too.
like a huge Fall Out Boy fan, and this one's just it's sticking. They definitely found a
The
great
opening-
balance, like you said.
Yeah, the opening piano on track 1. Normally, I'm like, oh, piano and punk. I'm like, I like organs in punk. When you think about
Yeah, yeah.
Gaslight Anthem uses it really well. Dropkick Murphys uses it at times when it's, but piano in punk, it almost doesn't sound like it would work. But in that opening track, it's almost got a My Chemical Romance vibe to it, and it really hits. But then the track right after that is a little bit more pop leaning. And I'm like, oh crap, here we go. It's going to be, they lured me in.
I remember thinking that same
Yep.
thing.
But then every other track, there was such a nice balance. I'm going, you know what? It's actually making me appreciate the pop songs a little bit more because, like I mentioned earlier, in the album listen, it makes sense. There are certain songs on the new album, though, if it came up on shuffle, I would immediately skip. But listening to it as an album, I respect it.
Even like the last song, it calls back to that first song. Like I feel like it's meant to be
Yeah.
heard in full.
Yeah, I wish more bands would put the effort into writing albums again, because with streaming and with digital downloads, there is such an emphasis on the single that the album gets ignored. And I think that's a shame, because there's so much great music out there that is falling beneath the surface because the band is just looking for that hit. And I think when bands put more effort into actually crafting an album statement, amazing things happen.
Yeah, and you can even take it a step further, and we're all dating ourselves here, but like now it's almost like with TikTok, you just want to have a good verse. It's not even about a good song anymore. You want to have that little snippet that catches and goes viral. And I mean, I guess it works in a sense, but I've seen videos, I can't remember the guy's name, but the whole crowd sang the whole first verse flawlessly, and then he gets to the second verse and it's just dead silent. And you see him like kind of laugh, like, wow, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was this bad. I wish I could remember his name. It was wild.
Look, I have a TikTok channel. I know you need to be
You
there.
gotta play the game.
You gotta play the game. I will tell you right now, follow me on TikTok at My Weekly Mixtape for the worst TikTok experience you have ever had. I literally, my daughter's trying to coach me on it. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Did you post Pedro eating the sandwich?
No.
I did that last week. I was telling my wife, I'm like, I don't want to do this, but it's everywhere. Like, maybe I should just do it. It got like 10 views. I'm like, this doesn't work. I thought if I copied everyone.
She'll listen to Nicole.
And I don't dance.
I'll stick
either,
to the
so,
interview
like,
clips. That's what I like to do.
I would probably go viral if I did dance on it, though. That's I because I'm so bad at it. I mean,
Just sell out. Make your pop album. Come on. Yeah, it's
Colburn Mania.
mm. Oh, it would be a sight for sore eyes.
It really though, like especially like because you're also a podcaster. Like it's a tool that could potentially get millions of views on you in like a day.
It's
Whether or not that
fascinating.
translates to, I mean, if it translates to 5 listeners, it'd be worth it. If it translates to 1 listener, I'd be psyched.
Yeah.
Like,
I had a band on my weekly mixtape. They were signed to Atlantic Records in the 90s. They were called The Uninvited. The episode is currently up on my Patreon, and I think it's scheduled to air on the main feed in, I want to say it's 4 weeks from now. And The Uninvited had 2 songs, What God Said and Too High for the Supermarket, that gained some airplay. They were dropped from the major and they've been independent. They just put out in December of 2022 their first album in like 20 years. And he was explaining to me in the episode that he went on TikTok and he would put clips of songs, he would put show posts, and he wasn't even moving the needle. So what he started doing was just telling stories about his experiences when he was signed to a label. And sure enough, like that, 10,000 followers, videos,
wow.
hundreds of thousands of views. So there's a definite spin for TikTok that you need to kind of play the game. However, I asked him flat out, has that translated into album sales for you? Has that translated into more people in the audience? And he said, as far as album sales goes, because they made their trackable click-through link, he's seeing less than 1%
Wow.
even making the jump to go check out the music, and then in even less to purchase. However, that he has seen people come up to him after shows saying, I follow you on TikTok. I wanted to come see the band. So, I mean, there is a place for it. But as far as podcasting goes, I've watched a lot of audiograms on there and I've tried different things. I just don't know what moves the needle when it comes to podcasting because, mom told me I got a face for radio 30 years ago. I'm not, people aren't looking at my feed to be like, oh, I got to see me some Brian Colburn tonight. That's not happening.
There's something to be said for name recognition, I think, though. Like, even if it doesn't necessarily translate, the more people kind of see you, they might eventually go look. I don't know, I go back and forth with it. Sometimes I think I'd be better off doing something completely different for TikTok, whether it's talking about songs or just whatever. And then if people are into it, they might come check out the actual podcast rather than just put podcast clips, which is basically what I do now.
And that's an interesting point that you make. But here's the question I have for you in this situation. You guys produce a podcast here. I produce a podcast on this end. I know the work that goes into producing a podcast. I wish all it was we hit stop on this button and boom, it's live. Everyone's here. There's editing that goes into it, producing the imagery for it, setting up the social media for it, researching the discussion topics or whatever you're going to be talking about on the episode. There's a lot of work that goes into. Is there time to put in a whole new set of work to create additional original content for TikTok in hopes that it drives people to all the work you're doing on the pod? So for me, the decision I made was to invest every last waking hour I could into the podcast to try to make it as best as it could be and put as much time that's left over into social media as I can. But I don't let the social media scale tip away from the quality of the episode.
I'm the hands up emoji right now, just listening to this.
Well, Brett, you're doing
the battle.
You're doing the album listening experience on Twitter. I see that you're going through that. See, that to me, that's interesting content that's outside of the show, but also relates to the show. So for me, every day when I go pick up my children from school, I bring a CD with me because I have to get there a few minutes early. I got to wait for them to get out of class. So I post a picture of the CD and I try to start conversations about it. And sometimes the conversations go on for days and I'm shocked at the engagement. Certain albums really, I don't want to say people jump in, like they want to talk about it. And it's kind of the more random albums. Cause I posted Cracked Rear View by Hootie and the Blowfish as I was running errands on Sunday. And when I got back, there was a bunch of comments and people talking about and I didn't realize, I know the album sold 10 plus million copies, but I didn't realize that many people were still a massive fan of Cracked Rear View. I thought I was going to get ribbed for picking an album that so many people, that everybody owned a copy of. But there's a lot of people out there that still truly love that album. And that was really kind of refreshing to see.
No, I love that you're doing that now. I think, like, is it Records Revisited that does that too? The podcast?
Yeah, Records
Twitter?
Revisited. I am friends with Ben as well. He's a great guy. Ben and Wayne over there. They have a great show. He does the same thing where he posts what he's listening to, and that triggers conversation. Does it equate to more listens to the podcast? I don't know, but honestly, I don't care because I enjoy that conversation. So to me, that's fun. And that's not really, I'm not doing it for the podcast's sake. I'm doing it because I just love talking music with people. And if there's people out there that want to talk about it, I'm all ears. Let's have a conversation.
I think that could get listeners in though, because like the one today, I think it was like Counting Crows Recovering the Satellites.
That was
he has an
Ben's,
episode.
Yes.
Yep. He said he has an episode coming up in a few weeks. I'm like, well, I got to listen to that episode now. And then it sent me down the rabbit hole today where like I was listening to that as it was working. So like, and even with you with Hootie, like my wife loves Hootie. So like, there's a good chance if we're like in the car, we're gonna have like 90s radio on and some Hootie will be on there. But like that can trigger someone to go listen to that album. And then if you have an episode coming up related to that album, they're gonna listen to that too.
Right. And what I try to do is involve the listeners as much as possible. So before I record any episode, my goal is to do it within 3 or 4 days prior to the episode. Sometimes I do it within an hour of us recording and I have to go back and cut it in. But I ask people on social media, what song would you start your, whatever the topic is, mixtape with? Because in that regard, people chime in with different songs that resonate with them based on that topic. And sometimes it sends me spiraling down rabbit holes. Like, why didn't I think of that song? Or why didn't I not remember that? And it really makes the research part of the episode so much more fun when other people are getting involved, and that gets the conversation going. So when the episode airs, hopefully people, I hope, tune in to kind of see where their song picks landed, if they landed, and if not, why.
And you shared Farmhouse the other day too, which I appreciated.
That is my Japan copy that I found at the Princeton Record Exchange randomly on the $1.99 wall. I was just, scrolling up and down and I saw Farmhouse and I said, there's something that looks different about the spine of this CD. I'm that much of a nerd. I just know my favorite albums. I know the spine. So I pulled it out and I flipped it around and it had the Japanese writing. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I opened it up. It still had the Japanese booklet. I'm like, this has Mist and Driver on it. I'm like, I closed it up. I put it in the thing. And when I went up, I was like, God, please don't tell me, oh, we labeled that wrong. It's $199. Yeah. Nope. Sure as hell, $1.99. And I had been looking for Mist and Driver for 15 years. And it just so happened to pop up randomly at Princeton Record Exchange. So shout out to Amanda and all the great people down there for randomly stocking that gem.
That's awesome. I don't even think I'm familiar with those songs.
Oh, they're fantastic. They were put on the Japan version only. They've popped up in set lists over the years, but not a lot. Not a lot.
Yeah.
Should be more though, because they're great.
Well, what you just described is my favorite part of, like, I only recently got into vinyl the past couple of years, and I know I could just go online, find an album I like and buy it. But to me, it's not the same rush as when I'm flipping through the new arrivals bin. Like I have Blink's Take Off Your Pants and Jacket up there. And that's like, when I'm flipping through that used bin, it's usually like Michael Jackson, The Who. And then I see like Blink. I'm like, whoa. And it's such a more exciting thing when you just like capture it in the wild.
Yeah.
And that's like part of the fun.
Yeah. I love going to yard sales and book fairs where they have a little CD section, because it's diamonds in the rough. I have 4,500 CDs. There's not much I'm looking for, but I'm always looking, because you find a international copy. There's a lot of songs that we never got in the US. And damn it, we should have. And by finding those rarities and those diamonds in the rough, it's an adrenaline rush. I kid you not. Like, even sometimes when I see something on eBay, I still get a little like, I got a bid on that, but I'm going to wait until the last possible second because I don't think anybody's scouring this exact title. So then sometimes I'm left with utter disappointment when it rockets up to $150. And other times I'm like, I just got this CD for 99 cents. Like, wow.
Yeah, I found a Rubber Soul album, and it was not the track list I was used to. And it was the same thing. It turned out it was like an international pressing, and I had no idea about 3 or 4 of the songs. I was wondering where 4 of the songs went. So now I just have this copy that's not the copy I expect to hear in my head, but it's still kind of cool just because it's different.
Yeah, I'm all
Yeah.
about, bonus tracks and stuff like that. But I actually kind of went on a venting session about this on Twitter recently because I love that bands are selling enough albums to feel the need to create a deluxe edition. However, don't do it a year after the album comes out. Do it the day the album comes out. Give your listeners a choice. I would rather give the band $5 extra on opening day to get the deluxe edition right from the jump than buy an album with 10 tracks only for a year later for them to release 3 songs and then put them out on a deluxe edition of that same CD. So I'm rebuying the album
Yep.
and taking up space that I don't need to. So that's the time where I go to Cubase and hopefully grab the 3 songs. And I almost feel guilty because I kind of want to own the actual physical CD, but there's only so much you could spend. $16.
Yeah.
If you give me a choice, I'm
For
always
80% of the same album you already
Yeah.
have. Or yeah, we
like
were
if a
just
band
talking
gives me
about
the
it other
choice.
day.
Nickelback did it with their last album, Get Rollin'. They put out a regular version and a deluxe. And
I didn't
yes,
hear the deluxe.
I went right for the deluxe. Yes, I bought a deluxe Nickelback album. You could pull
It was
that
a
as
good-
It's
your-
actually a good album.
It was a
though.
great
great
album.
I don't
I-
care what anybody says. People rip on Nickelback, and I've gotten into this argument and discussion, whatever you want to call it, with a bunch of my friends. Nickelback is the 2000s version of Bon Jovi. That is exactly what it Bon Jovi made albums that had the hard rock songs that pleased the guys and the power ballads that pleased the ladies, and it catered to the masses because it was something everybody liked. And it's radio friendly hard rock. And for some reason, there's a lot of gatekeepers out there that want to keep rock separate from radio. We don't want to sell out. Sure, I'm sure none of these bands that are out there touring all over the country want to be played on radio, and they don't want to play in front of 20,000 people. They're fine playing on a Wednesday night at 7:00 in front of 7 people and the bartender. Bull. Every band wants to hit the stratosphere of Nickelback, and I feel like a lot of the hate is a tinge of jealousy. And I'm not every song by Nickelback is great, but the last album had a lot more great than it did tracks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it transported me right back to like early 2000s days, and it was just a fun album. Not everything has to be like a 9-minute Tool song that's reinventing music. Like some things could just be a fun verse chorus that's fun to sing along with your friends with.
Exactly.
Like there's room for everything.
Those
room
9-minute Tool
for-
songs are fun.
Yeah, look, I could listen to a Blink-182 song. I could listen to Edging by Blink-182 and follow it up immediately with something from Lainey Wilson, who's a country artist I like. When I'm in shuffle mode, that's fine. A good song is a good song is a
Yeah.
good song. Genres be damned. But when it comes to listening to an album, that's a different story. Like Farmhouse, which I am glad you finally gave a chance to, for the record. I'm jumping back to that one.
Oh, he went.
Oh, I
deep.
went. I'm in I haven't reached the ocean floor yet. It's like how deep I'm in the water with Phish right now.
So then I got to ask you, because if Farmhouse was your gateway drug album, now that you've listened to more albums from Phish, where do you rank it now?
It's still up there because it's the one that won my heart over. So I still have it up there pretty high. I've been on like a strange like Rift kick lately though. Like I've been just strangely like just drawn to that one because I think I never really dove into that one last year, but now I'm kind of as I get deeper into like my Phish listening, that's where I'm at right now. I'm lost in the maze, so to speak. So
Okay, and mine's weird. Farmhouse stays the top for me because
Yeah.
that's the one where I knew Phish prior to Farmhouse. I knew Reba, I knew Sample in a Jar, I knew the songs in the 90s, and they were always a band where I'm like, oh, that's a decent song. My wife, when we were dating, gave me the CD to listen to because I'm in New Jersey, and at the time she was in New Hampshire, and we had these 6-hour drives by ourselves every week. So we would hand each other CDs to listen to. She gave me Farmhouse, and I put it in first for my drive home, and it didn't leave the CD player for 6. I listened to it, and I was like, all right, I'm in on this. These guys are awesome. And I went out, and then I fell in love with Junta after it. And that became literally my number 2 album, which those 2 albums could not be farther apart in the Phish spectrum. Because it's like jazzy, jammed out weirdness and pretty much 3 to 4 minute condensed acoustic rock songs. Maybe taking First Tube out of the mix on Farmhouse. But Farmhouse is a much more digestible album. But for me, when you put those 2, 1 and 2, you're giving people the full Phish spectrum in their first 2 album listens. And if they decide there's one side they can't handle, I can kind of guide them. So if they only liked Farmhouse and they hate Junta, I'm going to keep them away from the earlier stuff, and I'll point them towards Fuego, or I'll point them towards Sigma Oasis. I feel is very much in the same vein as a Farmhouse, but I don't know if I would send them down the Maze and down
Ghost?
the Reba. That might be a little too jazzy for them.
Get
Game
Funky
Ends would
Phish
just
with Ghost.
scare 'em.
Yeah. Oh, Ghost is my all-time favorite Phish song. That is just a jam. When they play that live, they could do that for an hour and a half, and I'd be like, just keep going, man. That bass line, it's so much fun. They kind of can groove
Yeah.
off that one forever. Oh, I could, but
Yeah, we went over New Year's, not on New
Nice.
Year's, but during that run, and it was Brett's first show, and we got Fluffhead opener, which is just like talk about getting thrown right into it. Like,
my
doesn't get
first
much
ever,
weirder than that.
yeah, my first ever Phish opener was Heavy Things right off of Farmhouse. So
Oh,
they
man.
won me over from song 1 that night.
Stars aligned.
Because I'm there with my now wife, and they open with that. I'm like, oh my God, they must have known we were here. Like, this is amazing. Like, they opened with something from Farmhouse, and what a set. Like, it just, from that moment, I'm like, all right, whatever they do the rest of the night, like, I got Heavy Things to
it's
open
gravy.
the show, which is
Not
It's a
one they play frequently either.
no, that's why. It's like,
Do you have any Phish shows lined up? Any just shows at all lined up? You going to
I
any
have
concerts?
shows lined up for this summer, but
No
not
Phish?
Phish right now. Not yet. I'm still keeping an eye on those. I am going to the 2 nights of Metallica at Giant Stadium with
Nice.
Mammoth WVH and Pantera on night 1, and Ice Nine Kills and Five Finger Death Punch on night 2. And I am looking to take my children for the 2nd year in a row to see the Interrupters at the Stone Pony with Frank Turner opening. So
Oh, that's great.
yeah, a little
Yeah,
bit
we
of a mix there.
talked about them last time. Those Metallica shows sound great, and you get a nice day of rest in between.
Oh yeah, for my age, that's fantastic. My buddy's like, dude, Lamb of God's playing in Hershey, Pennsylvania,
Do it. Go
in between and
Go all
Pantera's
in.
opening. So do you want to see them twice? And I'm like, can we make a game time decision on Saturday morning? Because if Pantera sucks live, if they like don't show up, I don't want to drive 5 hours to go see them the next. But Lamb of God is always incredible live, so that's like it's a tough decision.
It'd be a fun weekend though.
Oh, it would. I'd have to take Monday off though.
How was getting tickets for those Metallica shows?
Believe it or not, ridiculously easy.
What
Really?
I had one of the credit card pre-sales, so I just logged right in at 10 a.m. I put in the 2-night pass, and the row came up, and I was like,
Wow.
fantastic.
Congrats.
So I told
That's
all
really
my
rare
buddies, I'm
now.
like, I'm in this section. Just look in that section. And it turns out I think 7 or 8 of my friends are all scattered in that one section. So we're all going to meet up before the show and kind of do a big group tailgate. And then we're all scattered throughout that one section, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this much. Everyone's been, Ticketmaster's been the hot topic this year with the ticket prices and the dynamic pricing and that nonsense. I got 2 nights of Metallica with the lineup that I mentioned for $240. We're in the upper tier. So, I mean, look, they're going to be this big, but whatever.
As long as you can hear it.
For
You'll be able to
2
hear it.
concerts. 2 tickets, though. That's not per ticket. That's total. $240 for 2 nights at Giant Stadium. To put that in comparison, in 2016, I took my father to see AC/DC at Giants. Not 2016, 2017. The last time AC/DC did a big tour. They had Vintage Trouble opening up. Maybe it was 2017, 2018. I paid $120 for the one concert. So I feel like my buddy and I's reasoning for this was, well, we're paying the same amount that we paid to see AC/DC 8 years ago, and we're getting a free bonus concert on Sunday night for free.
Yeah, that's great.
So to me, that's not bad. But then I see what people are spending on Taylor Swift and Pink and all these other artists, and it makes me sick to my stomach. Oh my
Blink
God.
too.
I love Blink-182. I'm not paying $500.
No, absolutely not.
Come on.
That's crazy. I love them too, but not like, I don't know. They're not that good.
They're not a mortgage payment.
There's no band. I'm sorry. The Desert Festival, the Power Trip that's happening in California.
I want to talk about that last episode. Those price packages are insane.
Insanity.
My buddy said to me, dude, we got to fly to California for this. And I literally responded back in text, $5.99 for the worst seats in the house. He goes, the immediate response was, we got to hope they live stream this, ... There's no way. I'm not being 3 miles away and spending $600.
And then there's
more
packages. Yeah, the flight, hotel. If you want a bus transfer, it's another $200. They had one package where you can be in the pit, so you can be as close as you can, and that's like $1,900. And they try to throw access to general admission in there like it's a perk. It's like, well, yeah, if I'm getting that ticket, I would hope I could walk wherever I want. Like, that's wild.
Look, to me, general admission is rough because
clip it.
There you go. Not the show, it's the ticket. Because depending on the crowd, it's going to make the experience for you.
Yeah.
So kind of like if I'm the crowd tonight, I'm either ruining this episode or making it meh. But when you have your seat at a show, and this is definitely my age talking here, you've got your view, and for the most part, as long as someone who's 7'5" isn't sitting in front of you, you're kind of set. Whereas when you're in the pit, you got to worry about if people are surfing over your head. And when you're there with kids, to me, it's a different experience because I'm there wanting to kind of let them experience concerts. So with the interrupters, sure as heck, we were right in front of the stage. But the crowd that was around us knew we had kids. A couple of other people had kids near us. And kind of everybody in the audience was so respectful of the fact that we had children with us that I never felt more comfortable in general admission than that moment. A circle pit broke out during Tiger Army, and people were running around in the circle. It was getting a little hefty. I brought my daughter to the side of the circle pit, and they're waving us in, and I'm pointing at my kid going, and they said one of the guys went like thumbs up. On the other side, he had his little daughter with him. So we went in, and everybody stopped going hard in the pit, and everyone just started going around in a circle.
Oh, man,
and everybody's high-fiving the kids and cheering for them. And the 2 girls, like in the end of it, got in the center and were just dancing around, and everybody's cheering for them. And it made them feel so happy. And I'm almost like the hair on my arm is standing up just talking about this, because I went to work that Monday, and they're like, what'd you do this weekend? I said, I took my daughter into a circle pit. And everyone looked at me like I was like Psycho Dad.
Call CPA.
Yeah,
or whatever.
everybody was
Whatever
so
it is.
so respectful of there being children there
Yes.
that I was just completely blown away by the crowd because but it could have been a much if it was a
Yeah.
different audience. I bring my 10-year-old in there and I'm their Dyfus is showing up to my house. Well, why would you do that? So it's kind of a read the room situation.
And she's gonna remember that forever too. Like that's an incredible like first concert memory.
Yeah, and they threw at the end of the show, the interrupters were throwing out beach balls, and people are hitting them in the air. And at one point, she had it in her hands, and somebody smacked it out of her hands. My 10-year-old.
Oh,
So she started getting like oh my god, we're gonna lose this night. She's gonna be in tears. Somebody else reached up for another one, but instead of hitting it, grabbed it and just passed it over to her and said, "Don't let it." And she hugged that thing like she still has it in that. She's got the interrupters balloon. She keeps in her room. She's all about it. So
what a great crowd that night.
yeah, right. Like I felt. I was thanking the people. Like, do you want me to buy you a drink for that? Was like really cool. You're like, no, man, I have kids. They're just not with me tonight. Let's make her night special. So like to me, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's just the beauty of music and like the communities. And of course it's not always like that, but
No.
a lot of the times it is. And something that I always liked about Phish too. It's like you think, oh, like it's my first show, people are gonna get all high and mighty. But it's the exact opposite where they just get really psyched for you.
Hi.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, they get really high. I don't know
really
about
high.
the mighty part.
They just
Well, I'll
get
tell
really
you,
high.
one of the nights they played at PNC, I had 3 tickets. And at the time, I was going to bring my then 3-year-old. And my wife's like, no. And I'm like, yes. She's like, no. And I'm like, come on. It's going to be fun. It's the lawn. We'll get a blanket. It's just the 3 of us. It'll be a fun night. I lost that one. So I sold the ticket to my cousin. We get there and we sit down on our blanket on the lawn. And this couple comes and sits right in front of us. And it's 2 parents and a 4-year-old. And I turn to my wife and I'm going, see that? Like, come on. And she looks at me. She's like, okay, next show. The wife says, I'm going to go get some popcorn. I'll be right back. And she leaves. And the husband texts, picks up his phone. He goes, okay, now's your chance. And his buddy comes over. And this is a hand to God, maybe lightning. Him and this guy, I don't even want to call him a parent because I drop acid in front of this kid. Now I'm sitting there, my wife's jaw's on the ground, and I'm like, now I'm keeping an eye on the kid because this guy is in la la land, and his poor kid, if she runs off or something, he's gonna have no clue. So the wife gets back, and my wife and I are stunned behind them. And she sees her husband. The guy can't even like open his mouth. And she just goes, you silly goose. And I'm like, really? So from that point on, I said, I'm going to wait until my kids are older to give them the Phish experience. Because,
Yeah.
And it might have just been that one
best.
guy. But when you see something like that as a parent, it's very hard to
and it's
justify it.
probably hard to enjoy the show after that too, because now you're kind of preoccupied. You're a little worried about
your
this.
mind's racing.
Yeah, as a parent, like as anybody, I would be concerned. But I'm the kind of person that goes to a Phish show and wants to stay stone cold sober because I want to pay attention to
Trey's fingers.
how they're transitioning from song to song. How are they going to get from, I don't know, from chalk dust torture into waste and make it work? Like, I want to hear those transitions. And I feel like they should kind of cut any arena they play into in half and have 2 sides of the stadium. The partying side and the music nerd side. Because I feel like that's every Phish show I've ever been to, I felt like the crowd has been 50-50. Where people are going and they're like intently studying the music that's happening. They're still enjoying it and dancing, but you could tell that they're locked in on the band. And then there's other people that don't even know the band is over there, and
Throwing
they're
glow
facing the
sticks.
wrong. They're facing the wrong way. They don't know where they are, but they're still having a good time. But they're not really focused on the music part of it.
Yeah, we had it happen the other day. A buddy and I went to a show at a music hall at Williamsburg, and
Nice.
these two kids in front of us were just straight up having a full-blown conversation during the main act. And we're like 10 rows from the stage. So it's not like we're all the way in the back or at the bar and they're talking. We're right there. And finally, after a couple songs, my friend's just like, he leans in, he's like, shut up, shut the fuck up. And they turn around, they're like, what? Like, everyone's talking. We're like, no, no one's talking. And I tell them, like, if you want to talk, just go to the bar. You can still hear the show. Like, just he's playing an acoustic song and you're talking over him. Like, why are you even here?
There is nothing more like I
They
don't know
left,
what's
though.
worse.
They did leave.
I don't know what's worse. People, I guess I'm okay with the talking. To me drives me nuts. But so does bad singing along.
Yeah,
That's bad too.
I love singing along, but like know your volume relative to the show.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Like if you've got Aretha Franklin on stage, but you have 2023 Vince Neil sitting next to you, who's not even singing the words when they happen in the song. So you're kind of hearing these two songs trying to come together. It's like, it's nauseating.
Or if like you try to catch a video of it and like all you hear is like the person next to you and like you don't even get like a good like brief clip or anything, you just get that person singing.
or
That's always a fun one.
But the talking, to me, the only conversation that should be had is, do you want to go get something to drink, and then kind of make the thumb point and then you get up.
Yeah.
And I would never do that to somebody at a concert. Like if I'm going to say something to my wife, I'm going to make it that it's so audible just to her, because the person sitting next to me, this could be their first time ever seeing their favorite band and they just want to enjoy the experience. I don't think they need to know that I'm thirsty.
Yeah.
And
Or
I don't
how-
want to ruin a moment in their favorite song with that kind of nonsense.
I like the between songs, you lean to your friend and you go, that was awesome. And then
Yes.
you shut up.
Yes.
Or like when Phish starts playing You Enjoy Myself and then Nick drops his phone. I let him know he drops his phone. And it's just, I don't care. And they play for like 20 minutes.
They'll call me later.
Picking up my phone wasn't an option. That thing was gone as far as I was concerned.
I'll
You
never see
mentioned it
that
with-
phone
with,
again, but this version has been epic.
Yes. Well worth it. They're on trampolines. Wow.
What's funny is no matter how many times I've seen Phish, anytime I see Cavern and they do the little dance at the end with just kind of moving their feet in front of each other.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, they're doing it. It's the stupidest thing in the world, but I love it so much. Much like the trampolines.
But they're in sync doing it, which is still like
That's the best part.
just enough for you to be impressed. Because they're
Yes.
also playing. They know what direction to bounce on the trampolines. How? How do they know?
That means that there's been practice. There's been
Yes.
trampoline practices for Phish. You
That's what
realize
I
that,
want to
right?
see. We need a Phish Patreon where you can view the trampoline practices.
To come with live
You go
Phish.
this way, I'll go this way.
You were saying it for the desert festival. I don't know what it's actually called, but Power Trip, how they should stream it. And Phish obviously does like the couch tour. I was just reading a headline today. Coachella is going to stream their entire 2 weekends coming up.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not sure where, but it sounded like it was for free and it'd be like a day later.
Okay.
So I'm not really sure who's playing. I know that like the Gorillas are playing. That'd probably be pretty cool, but I just wish everyone would do this. Like throw some ads on it. You'll make some money. We'll get to watch. Like everyone wins. I hope it becomes a thing.
I want to say it was on Hulu a couple of years ago, Lollapalooza. I sat on my couch all day and I was like, I'm just going to take this in. This is like, let me see a new band that I haven't, I'm a little iffy on. Let me see what their live performances are like. And to me, live streaming is absolutely imperative for like I tell you right now, I bet you Phish makes, I don't want to say just as much, but they're probably making, let's say even on the whole tour, like an extra night of income for the
Yeah.
band without having to do anything other than, you know, the
The
streaming
soundboard
aspect
or
of
yeah.
it. And it's not like they're not letting people tape their shows anyway.
Yeah.
So who cares if they're letting it out there? The only thing I think is that some bands might be afraid to do it where the band is not as free flowing as Phish, where they have a specific set with the same tracks, with the same lighting rig. Maybe they're not as apt to do the streaming because it is the same show every night of the tour. Whereas Phish, you go on night one and you go to every show, you're never seeing you're seeing
Yeah.
repeated songs, but not
Yeah.
a repeated evening.
What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you like that band's like mix it up, or like, I know like it drives me crazy when a band plays the same set for like all 30 dates of their tour, knowing they have like Nick and I were talking about like Rise Against the other day, like they have a habit of doing that. I'm like, you have so much in your back catalog, like just throw in a couple mix ups every night, like when you're on the tour, like you don't have to get like the same thing at every city.
I'm a snob a little bit when it comes to bands. So it's a band by band basis. If Phish did the same set every night, I'd be furious.
Oh yeah.
But when I go see Blues Traveler, I used to go see them in the 2000s when they did not play Runaround or Hook on some nights. If it fell into the rotation, so be it. Now, the last 5 years when I've seen Blues Traveler, those two songs are in. They kind of have about 8 or 10 songs that they play every single show, and then the other ones are mixed up. When I used to see them in the beginning, if I got a Runaround, I'd be like, oh, cool, I haven't heard this one live in a while. But now when you know they play those certain songs every show, it becomes less of a, I gotta catch this one. Because it's what 5 extra songs am I going to get besides kind of the streamlined hits. Now, if it's a band I've never seen before, here's where I get weird. It's my first time seeing the band and they're doing a greatest hits set. I'm okay with it. If it's my 50th time seeing the band and they're doing a greatest hits set, I'm frustrated because I've seen those greatest hits 50 times. I want nothing more than deep, weird album cuts, but I know that's not normal. So Blues Traveler used to do things like at Irving Plaza, they did a 4-night run with no repeats. And I love that because if you go, like the Metallica thing this summer, they're doing 2 nights, no repeats. So I'm like, fantastic. So one of the nights we're getting Enter Sandman, and one of the nights we're getting Nothing Else Matters. And it might both be in the same night. But then I know as soon as I hear Enter Sandman, I don't have to hear it again on night 2, which means that opens it up for me to finally, after 20-something times, get Blackened. I have waited to hear Blackened live by Metallica for 25 years.
Such a great
I'm
song.
hoping this year is finally my chance. If you don't see it on setlist.fm the Monday after, you can guarantee I'm going to be hoarse on Monday, but it's not because of me singing along. It's because of me screaming the whole way home that I still haven't gotten them to play Blackened yet.
I think you've good odds this time around.
Fingers are crossed. But like, that's the thing. If you went to go see a band that, let's say, is doing the Legacy Tour circuit, so when they group a bunch of 90s bands together, 4 or 5 90s bands, when you go to that tour, do you want to hear the deep cuts when you go to a show like that? Or do you only want to hear 5 hours of hits from these 5 bands?
Yeah.
Depends on the band, probably.
It depends who I'm with too. Like we're going to see Here Now in September, and I have some friends coming who like they don't go to like they don't go to like shows like we go to shows.
Okay.
But they love the Foo Fighters, they love Weezer. Like I'm expecting the hits. This is a festival with a ton of other bands. Like you're not gonna really get deep cuts at this thing, and I'm okay with that because that's probably gonna make everyone happy, which will be the
Yes.
most fun.
Yes.
But if they want to mix in like 1 or 2.
Yeah, of course. But like, you know, and what's
self-titled.
funny is it's definitely like when I used to go see Tom Petty, I had no problem with the hits, but he's my favorite artist of all time. So when he would mix it up and pull out a random cover, are you kidding me? This is amazing. When he did the slow version of Learning to Fly, when I saw him live, I'm standing next to my father. I had the hair on my arm standing up. I'm like welling up because the whole crowd is singing back to him. And there's a version very similar to that on the live anthology that features some woman named Stevie Nicks on background vocals.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Heard of
really,
her.
really amazing, beautiful. Every time I hear that version, it moves me to tears. It's so beautiful. And to be able to experience that live, it was a different take on a massive hit. So I loved that. Sure as hell, as soon as the song ended, I hear somebody in like the row in front of me, why the hell didn't he play it the way it should have been played? And I'm like, oh my God, this, did you not just hear that? That was epic. And again, you know, some people only want to hear the hits. So it's a balance and it depends on the band. So for me, Metallica, I've seen Enter Sandman more times than I don't ever need to see them play it again. I'm okay with it. But damn it, Blackened.
What
To
was he
circle
wishing
back
for?
to Blues Traveler real quick, because I actually went started to go down that wormhole a little bit last week, because like my wife and I just got done watching Poker Face,
Mm.
and like there's the scene with Benjamin Bratt where he like speaks the whole bridge of Hook,
Mm-hmm.
and so it sent me down 4. So I was wondering, like, if I really like 4, like what are some other Blues Travelers albums that I should check out? Blues Traveler albums that I should check out.
Well, Straight Out Until Morning, the follow-up is great. After that album is when oh my God, my brain is turning off because it's the end of the day. The bassist,
He died in 2000, right?
yes, and my oh my God, it's gonna kill me that I'm my brain is blanking on this. But when
I think
he
Nick's looking it
passed,
up.
and the band came back
Clicking
with
around.
Bridge, oh my God, I'm gonna. And this is going up on YouTube of me being a moron with Blues Travel. I'm so upset with myself.
Call back to the editing, right? The editing process.
Yes.
That's the perks of being the editor. There's plenty of stupid shit I say that I clip out, or the portions of me waiting too long to like find the information in my head. I don't know the bass player's name though. Is that what I'm doing right now?
No, I'm
Let's see.
looking right now because my Bobby Sheehan.
That's it. Yeah.
Ah,
You want to know why? Just if this is getting edited, I'll just explain. I did an interview with Billy Sheehan, and my brain was like, "Don't say Billy," because he's the bass player from Mr. Big and David Lee Roth, Bobby Sheehan. So my apologies on that. So when he passed, they put out an album called Bridge, which was fantastic. But the album after that, Truth Be Told, was not a massive album for the band. They play a couple of songs from it live now, but it's my wife and my all-time favorite Blues Traveler album, and it's the first one I always recommend to people because of the fact that it is the Phish farmhouse to Blues Traveler 2.0. It's a gateway album. The songs are 3 and 4 minutes. They're all fantastically well written. One of the songs on it, Sweet and Broken, is co-written by Chris Barron from the Spin Doctors. They have a very pop blues rock sense to them. They're very catchy, very melodic, and some fantastic harmonica work, obviously, but not as rockin' as 4 was. So if you're looking for that, an album that sounds just like 4, Straight On Till Morning kind of continues that tradition. But Blues Traveler 2.0 with Bridge, they they added in Ben Wilson on keys and Tad Kinchla on bass to take the place of Bobby. So it was like a new era of the band because they didn't have a keyboard up until Straight On Till Morning. So with that piano and keyboard, you're getting this new dynamic. So to me, it's a 2.0 for Blues Traveler, where adding in the keyboard player really brought them in different directions. And I love 2.0. But to me, when I make Blues Traveler mixes, believe it or not, I always do a CD of 1.0 and a CD of 2.0 because sometimes when you mix them together, I can mix them together, but to a casual fan that you're trying to introduce in your car or force them to take in the song with you, to me, it feels like you're showing them two different bands in a good way, but musically, it definitely takes on a road of its own.
I have to check that one out. And to bring it like full circle, like one of the first songs I ever downloaded on Napster was Hook. So there's me breaking the law.
Incriminating yourself. There you go.
He did it. Oh, way to go, Brett. Now we're all incriminated.
There we go.
Yeah, I'll just have to bleep a lot out and we'll be safe.
It was Napster 1.0 too.
Yeah, I was going to say the 2.0 Napster, you just paid for it. That was the same as...
Thanks, Lars.
There was one, I know we'll wrap it up soon because I know it's getting late. I was thinking though, when you mentioned the car, my friends and I do a type of mixtape thing that I think you might find interesting, which I'm sure you know about this, but it's just the queue in Spotify. So we'll pass the phone around and we all get 2 songs, but you try to keep it going through the mood of the songs with everyone, and it's pretty fun, and it's pretty similar to crafting a mixtape like on the fly.
That's
It's slightly
exactly
alive.
what we do on every episode of My Weekly Mixtape. What you said. Instead of passing the phone around, we pass the mic back and forth. But it's not just coming to the show with your 10 favorite songs. I always tell people, bring a bank of songs, 20, 30, 40, that you're going to whittle down to 10, because right now I'm currently recording soundtrack episodes for 80s movies, 90s movies, and 2000 movies. And I am going into each episode with 35 to 40 songs, because soundtracks are genre be damned. So if somebody starts the 2000s soundtrack episode with Teenage Dirtbag by Wheatus, it's very hard to pivot into the Shins from Garden State. They don't necessarily play nice with each other. But you could go into something from one of the American Pie soundtracks very easily.
That was
kind of do the pop punk thing.
Yep.
Dysentery Gary or Dumpweed, was it? I forgot which Blink song.
In Too Deep, maybe.
Oh
No,
yeah,
I think it was. I think Fat Lip was on by Sum 41. I was on.
That was on one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
even
then for
Breaking Benjamin
Blink
snuck into that movie.
Yeah, those
It wasn't
soundtracks
even
were
like
amazing.
their main song. Yeah,
But
those
one
are
thing.
those are great
One thing I
times.
learned about soundtracks is they died in the 2000s. Died because when iTunes started and then streaming in the late 2000s, soundtracks were no longer events. Soundtracks used to be as big as the movie. Think about movies of the 80s and 90s. Top Gun. If I say to you, Top Gun, movie or soundtrack?
Danger Zone.
Yeah.
People,
Take my breath away.
Some people are gonna prefer the soundtrack over the movie. Dirty Dancing. I personally like the soundtrack more than the movie, but whatever. You go into the 90s, Singles, Empire Records. Then you go into the 2000s.
Can't Hardly Wait.
Can't Hardly Wait. Almost Famous. I'll even say it. Twilight.
Yeah, I heard you talking about that with Will, right? The
After
Collective Soul episode?
Twilight, when soundtracks became almost an afterthought, where, okay, let's just grab a bunch of songs that nobody or that are already popular and add them to. So they're basically making a mixtape for the movie. And the one that did it the best, because they were ridiculously popular, were the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtracks. Everybody had those. Those were friggin' mixtapes. But none of those songs were brand new, recorded for the soundtrack, or, a B-side that was delivered specifically for the soundtrack. So those event movies are relegated now to The Greatest Showman, where there's songs written for the movie because the movie's a musical. But the last time I can remember a song being big for a soundtrack was Top Gun Maverick with Lady Gaga's song. But that's the only song on the sound. The rest is score. So guess where that song sold? Digitally. One track.
Yeah.
Because there's,
I remember like the Spider-Man soundtrack had a bunch of songs. That was a big one. Even the Little Nicky soundtrack was so good. That was where I discovered Cypress Hill as like a 13-year-old.
TOD was on there.
Yeah, everybody was on that one. That was also Deftones were on that.
Rage Against the Machine.
That was a new metal masterpiece right there.
You really don't get soundtracks anymore. I never thought about it, but
No.
what happened?
I'm not
Where'd
even
they go?
doing someone said to me, "Are you doing a 2010s episode on soundtracks?" And I said, "No."
You'd have an easier time doing it on commercials that use songs. Like Taco Bell
that's
has better
sad.
soundtrack than movies at this
Well,
point.
the thing is, I want to keep it where the songs meant something for the movie. In the 2010s, sure, I can grab a song off Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's not originally recorded for that. So that kind of allure of awesome soundtrack songs just becomes a random mix of songs from a random mix of movies. And I said, if I could find 20 songs that were recorded that I like originally from soundtracks in the 2010 decade, I'll do the episode. And I couldn't come up with 10. I was like, I can't find 10 original soundtrack songs from an entire decade that like, I think there's obviously The Greatest Showman from now on. They have The Greatest Showman reimagined. So Zach Brown Band does an amazingly beautiful version of that song. So that was one.
And that's the episode.
Right? Like it's just it was impossible.
Where did it go though? Because we were just talking about how singles are an important thing these days. So you would think singles with a purpose. Here, you don't have to make a new album, make a single for this movie. Like there's no logical reason that they should be going away. At least
because people pick and choose, and they could just create a playlist for the songs. But the real reason, I think, honestly, is because the labels could license an already recorded song and just pay the fees, or they could pay a band $100,000 to record a song and then pay the licensing fees after it. And the budgets at this point, when people's mindset is, kind of just dragging songs into a playlist, they're trying to save money. And it's a shame because soundtracks are no longer events. When's the last time you said, I need to go out and buy that soundtrack if it wasn't a Disney movie? Now I have kids, so like Frozen, Encanto, Moana, my kids needed those soundtracks. So to me, sure, the 2010s have a lot of original songs for soundtracks, but they're all Disney movies. There's not a lot of, think of every Marvel movie, Iron Man.
Black Panther had a pretty good one, I think. But that's like the most recent one. And that's like the only one I can think of from like the 2010s.
But that's hip hop. So that's great.
Yeah.
You pull those hip hop songs out. How many other hip hop songs? How would you weave a soundtrack or weave a mixtape of soundtracks when there's only these outliers? Because as much as I love the music from Black Panther and I love The Greatest Showman,
do
those two songs work back to back? That doesn't flow very well. It's a 180.
It's like, I like cookies, I like pizza, but do I like cookies on my pizza?
Depends on if it's after a Phish show, maybe you do.
That's true. If you're on the lawn at PNC, then
yes.
Brian, this has been so fun. Thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with us and sharing your time. I know you're busy.
Oh, guys, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, anytime, really. Where can the people find you?
The easiest place to find My Weekly Mixtape is myweeklymixtape.com. It's also just search My Weekly Mixtape wherever you're listening to this fine show or any of your podcasts. And you can also find me on every social channel, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at My Weekly Mixtape on all of those. And I appreciate anyone who follows, subscribes to the show. It's all about having a musical conversation like you guys do every week. And I am completely blessed and honored to have been invited on. So thank you guys. And I hope to be able to repay the favor and have you guys come craft a mixtape with me sometime.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be awesome.
2010 soundtracks. Let's do this one.
There we go.
I mean, that's all I'm going to be thinking about for like just probably tomorrow, but it's going to be on my head. I'll be sitting at work, very preoccupied, thinking of movie soundtrack ideas. Last question. Is Playlist Wars coming back at all? I know you guys mentioned maybe picking it back up in the summer.
Right now it's
Or
on hiatus,
okay.
and our goal is to, fingers crossed, record a bank of episodes in the summertime, because my kids are 14 and 10 and Gomez's kids are 2 and 6. So our schedules simply during the school year don't align.
Night and
When
day.
his kids are going to bed, my kids are just getting home from practice and the evening's just getting started. So right now I'm recording. Gomez right now is still doing the bedtime routine. If you look at the clock right now, he wouldn't be ready to go for another 15, 20 minutes, where I am now, when we're done here, going to start the homework and start the evening festivities. But during the summertime, when all that's off the table, we think we might be able to squeeze in some recordings and hopefully maybe drop them once a month until next summer and try to do it in seasons that way, because we both miss it, but we're realistic with what we can do. So Gomez is going to be a guest on My Weekly Mixtape for the 80s soundtrack episode. And we recorded it at 8:30 on a Sunday morning.
Nice.
Not the ideal time to get guests.
No, it's a rough one. We recently got on the Sunday morning schedule. Not that early, but it's kind of nice. Because these after work ones, sometimes it's hard to muster up the energy to like
Brains fried.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
which is why I couldn't remember Bobby Sheehan's name before, which is oh my
You know the
god,
struggle.
I'm gonna be, if my buddy Adam, who's a Blues Traveler fan, hears this episode, I am gonna never hear the end of that one.
And then one more quick plug for Brian, just to show how awesome he is as a host. You managed to somehow get Frank the Tank to be a normal person for like close to an hour. So that just goes to show like how great of a podcast it is.
No, that guy, I'll say this. Frank the Tank from Barstool Sports is not Frank the Tank to me. He is literally my buddy from college. We graduated from the same department at Montclair State. Myself, my daughter's godfather, and Frank were in a group together for electronic journalism, a course we took. So the three of us all semester had to work on projects together. And on the sports episode, there is a video embedded that Frank posted on his YouTube about garbage in the cafeteria. And it's just him standing there talking about all the garbage and how gross it is. And at the beginning, there's a guy who throws to him. That is my daughter's godfather, one of my closest friends on the planet. Frank, I've been friends with. So to get him on the show, it was literally a text of, hey, buddy, what's going on? Starting a new podcast. Really want to do a sports episode. Any chance you'd be willing to shoot the breeze with me and catch up for 45 minutes over some sports talk? But it's got to be music. Sure, period. That was like, if booking guests was always that easy.
Yeah,
but Frank's
real.
a great guy. And yeah, he was definitely, I didn't know which Frank I was going to be getting. And the Frank I got on the episode was the Frank that I went to school with. I didn't know how far it would go on the episode. So I was waiting for a bomb to drop at some point. And it didn't. It was a really fun sports anthems discussion. So
yeah,
I want more of that, Frank. Like
the
he
singing was
clearly
great.
shows.
Frank needs to put out an album.
Yeah.
Oh, Frank would be.
Sorry, man.
I don't know why. When he started singing all the stuff, I'm sitting there going like, when he was singing, I'm like trying to keep, because I didn't want him to start laughing because it was great, and you could just tell how much he has the encyclopedia for a reason. He is a sport. Like the knowledge he has of sports, I wish I had of music. I know the passion's there, but like certain facts, no fact slips out of his mind. And I am blown away by his sports knowledge. So
like the Prince Viking song, like I had no idea that was a thing until he said that.
I didn't know. And I'm a Prince fan and a music fan. I'm like, how did I not know this? And he's like, oh yeah, this was totally buried. And I looked it up, and sure as hell, there it is. Just off the top of his head. Guy's a genius when it comes to that stuff, but he's definitely a personality. And I was nervous going into that episode, but that's on My Weekly Mixtape as well. Just look up sports anthems and stadium anthems if you want to hear a little Frank the Tank.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian, so much. I'm sure we'll talk to you soon, and hopefully we can do this again.
Thank you both, gentlemen. This has been great.
And we're back. Thank you to Brian. You're the man. I hope we get to go on my weekly mixtape at some point.
I do too. And I hope we get
Yeah.
him back for a roadmap
Yeah.
of Metallica, probably.
Yeah. We talked to him. I think it was off air. I don't remember, but he sounded very down. So that would be cool.
That's like our only new music this week is Metallica.
That is this week? I wasn't sure. All right. When I ask you again in like 10 minutes, you can say it.
Metallica.
Metallica. Do we know the name of the album?
I do not.
Nice.
I just
That's
know
fine.
it's out on Friday.
That's fine. We're off next weekend. Well, we'll have an episode, but we won't be we'll be running a roadmap next week. And then we'll talk about Metallica after. That means I gotta listen to Metallica on vacation. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
We'll do it on the plane. Book club, the storyteller,
The conclusion.
the conclusion, Finn, the end.
When did we start this in November?
I
It's
think
been a little while.
I'm gonna say December was our first one, so not bad. Thoughts?
We did it.
Thoughts?
So
Oh, we finished. We read a book.
hopefully someone else
Congrats.
did too, unless it was just us two reading every week.
Chime in on Instagram if you read along with us. We're gonna do it again though. We're gonna do it again. Well, not the same book. That'd be
Yeah.
kind of weird.
Unless he writes another one, which hopefully we can
Yeah.
talk about that at the end, but
Yeah.
hopefully he does.
I said it before and I'll say it again. This was a great read. It was so inspirational and motivating and
Heartfelt.
fun, heartfelt, all the things. All the things. I feel like this last part
A little
centered
slower
around
than the last ones.
centered around like his home life mostly, like his daughters and stuff, I think,
And Joan Jett.
and Joan Jett, and yeah, the Barbie. I mean, it's crazy how these like legendary musicians are just like,
In his house.
yeah, like Uncle Paul is like a thing.
Yeah. Just
And-
crazy.
And Dave's like humble and just like cool enough where he realizes how insane that is.
And he never
So,
takes it
yeah.
for granted.
No, not at all.
Daddy daughter dance is wild too. That whole story of him
Oh my
doing all that
God.
travel.
So he went from Australia back home for a 6-hour dance, then back on the plane to Australia
And then got food poisoning.
during near death turbulence
Yep.
and put on and didn't miss the show. That's and
Yeah,
the best
somehow went on stage that night.
the best part is when he left his daughter's dance, they're just like, all right, bye. Like they
Yeah.
didn't even care. But I like the little wholesome part where like his daughter later in life was like, what's the longest flight you've ever been on? And he like told her all that. And she's like, Dad, you didn't have to do that. He paused. She's like, yeah, you did.
She's like, yeah, you did.
That was great. I texted this to you, but him describing himself in a suit, he's like, I look like a stoner in court who has to be there to pay a marijuana charge
Oh,
when
it's
I
so
put on a
good.
suit. It's so funny. But I
I-
think the craziest part was the stylist for the Oscars,
That was wild. Like, what are the odds?
right? So he's like on the fence of playing Blackbird at the Oscars, which is one of my like favorite performances of him ever. So I'm really glad he did that.
I
Like,
can't find it anywhere. I looked on YouTube, it wasn't there.
is there other videos of him playing Blackbird? Because I remember I loved like there was a video of him playing Blackbird that I loved. I just assumed it was
But
the
got taken
Oscars.
down.
By who? By Uncle Paul?
The Oscars.
Messed up. But so he agrees like he wasn't gonna do it, and then his daughter was like, you have to because we performed it for the talent show. So now you have to do it, even though you're scared. And he's like, all right, like I can't be a hypocrite. So he meets the stylist beforehand, and it's like a blonde girl, and she's like, oh, like, hi, like we've actually met before. And he doesn't remember. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't remember. She was the little girl in the heart-shaped box music video.
which is
insane.
wild.
Yeah, and I looked up that music video just for like a reminder. I don't know if they used the green screen or not, but this little girl was like in a field with someone getting like crucified. And she's like wearing like it almost looked like a Pope outfit, like it was all white.
It's a
It was-
creepy video.
oh yeah, it's really weird. But it's just like, what are the odds? Like so many things in his life have just like connected. It's just really bizarre.
But the whole like the conclusion of the book was a little like tough to read because like knowing like he'd lose his mom and Taylor
Yeah,
after he put this out, and like that whole conclusion was like a heartfelt. Like each band member got their own paragraph. His
yeah,
wife, his kids, his
yeah,
band manager, and it ended with his mom.
yeah, yeah. It was tough, especially like Taylor was hard. Like it sucks,
Called him his
but I mean,
soulmate, pretty
a,
much,
a
right?
lot of this book is about that, and doesn't necessarily make it easier, but I think if he takes his own advice, like he's just like he's not a stranger to this, obviously, and he's able to like carry on and do great things, and pretty amazing. And we get to see him
We
this
do.
summer.
Dune.
It's gonna be great. I forgot about that one actually until just now. It's a
See
great
here
like
now.
it's a great cap off to the summer
Yeah, it's an exclamation point.
because you don't want to wish away summer, so you're not really thinking about it. But
It's like the weekend, like right before like fall mode gets switched.
yeah, did you see Thrice is playing Terminal 5?
I did not see that, but
Yeah.
I we didn't talk about it on the show, but I really did like their re-recorded "Artist in the Ambulance." They like re-recorded the whole album.
Oh yeah. I don't remember. Was it like much different? Like they just cleaned up the songs or
It was a little different. Like
yeah,
I guess like his voice is more cleaner,
gotcha.
but I enjoyed both versions.
Yeah. I think I don't listen to them a whole lot, but I think they've been aging very well as a band.
They're still putting out some of their strongest material, which is very impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. Um Not many
Yeah,
other shows coming up. I got that Screaming Female show that I think you're passing on. After that, might just be waiting till summer. But Phish comes back next week.
they do. The Seattle shows.
Yeah. I put on Farmhouse the other day because of that Easter meme. Made me want to listen
That
to
was
it.
so good.
It was so funny. You could really hear him singing it. It's like Jesus with an acoustic guitar.
Singing Farmhouse.
Yeah. It's great. Yeah, summer's right around the corner. Shows, albums. I'm very excited.
Gotta figure out our next book eventually too. A summer read.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Gotta pick one. Next week we have Nick Parko back on. We're not talking Weezer though. We're gonna go over The National, a band that neither of us knew anything about prior to this. So it's a really fun roadmap. And we learned a lot, and I think we might have become fans. I don't know. It was you'll have to listen to find out, but it was a fun ride and he did a great job. So that'll be out next week. And after that, we'll be back with our regular episodes. We'll talk some Metallica, and if anything comes out between now and then, we'll talk about that too.
And we have new national at the end of the month, so I'll probably still be simmering on them a little more.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't got to go back yet, but I plan on it.
I'm probably gonna listen to our episode again and then follow that as we go through. Even though we have the playlist already, just like kind of go album to album.
Yeah. Yeah, like because you could listen to like 20 minutes or so, then listen to a whole album, and then listen to another 20 minutes. And you could just spread it out like that. It doesn't have to like you don't have to fill your day with it. I mean, you
No.
can. That'd be cool. But yeah, dip in and out. Yeah, that's gonna do it. Great week. R.I.P. Chester. We miss you, and the songs are great. Thank you to Brian for coming on, and thank you to everyone for listening. You're the best.
And thank
We
you
love
to Grohl for writing an awesome book. And I know he confirmed in the appendix he'd write another part someday. So looking forward to that.
Yeah. Yeah, can't wait. I'm sure he will. He could probably write 50 of these things.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'll read them all. All right, it's gonna do it. We love you all. Have a good one. Bye.
Give about it.